We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day's going well. By the time you hear this, it's Sunday. However, we are recording it Friday night. Plenty of shit to talk about, and we thought we'd go down to where it's warmer, down in Texas, San Antonio, Texas specifically. And we have Jace on the program, somebody you're very familiar with. We can
Yep.
talk a little bit about what's going down in your fucked up state of Texas, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the fucked up country that we all live in. So how you
Boy,
doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Boy, if we don't fucking just two of the most fucked up states going on right now in our so-called union, I mean,
Yeah.
the stuff going on up there is not really your fault, and the people's fault. I saw some of those protests today. My God, if they, I was very impressed. I mean, we've had big crowds down here doing it. There was a thing the other day where a bunch of students, they were, I guess it was the 23rd, the Friday, a bunch of students were doing it too, and people were walking out. So, I mean, when you start, I mean, people, I don't know what the Republicans are doing, man. I mean, it's like, you talked about, Dems carry guns too.
Yeah.
And, and now they're saying they want to go into people's houses without a warrant. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't
See,
there
that's
that? Didn't they have that
the,
thing down in Florida where they used that as an excuse for when they killed was it Florida or where was it the kid was going back to his dad's condo or something, they killed him and it was like stand your ground or something, or I
yeah.
mean
You have stand your ground. You have the castle doctrine. I think we have the castle doctrine here, which basically suggests someone breaks into your house, you have the right to use deadly force, and you're not going to be prosecuted for it. There are other aspects of that, though. If you got ice kicking in your door and you're standing there with a shotgun, you could shoot the guy coming in, but the other 10 guys will fucking blow you away, too. So you got to give that some consideration.
I would be a little bit worried if I was, because I remember when I was a kid and we had to go knock on people's houses and
Yeah.
because we had to tell people about Jesus. And if Jesus needs my help, a 12-year-old boy, he's in fucking trouble. But I remember back then thinking, you know what? And this is back what in the 80s, and I was like, you know what? I don't like this shit. I mean, what was that thing? It was. I mean, it's just amazing is that I remember the right wing with their, don't tread on me and Timothy McVeigh and I mean the thing, what was that? It was something to where they wanted these like federal agents wanted to come on and just ask them questions. And it wasn't Timothy McVeigh, but it was like there was some kind of standoff. This has happened, of
Oh,
course, but
you talking
now
about
they want to
Waco?
go in people's houses. I mean, it's like you don't know. It's kind of like with the mail-in ballots. They don't really think. They think they're just like, oh, I'm gonna, stop these mail-in ballots. Well, Republicans vote by mail too. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. And like I
Yeah.
said, I learned from a young age, like I don't want to go knocking on fucking people's door, and I ain't got, and I'm not armed. I mean, if I look out my fucking keyhole and I see some a bunch of motherfuckers armed, I can tell you what a lot of Texans down here would do, and a lot of them live off the grid.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm surprised we haven't seen something like that. I'm surprised we haven't seen some kind of shooting by the general public. I mean, people are getting to the point where they're becoming scared, feeling cornered, and when people get that way, they tend to go toward violence. And as you said, it's not just Republicans that have guns. There are people on the streets here now that are kind of walking around with their guns, and of course, the ICE agents are avoiding those areas because they're pussy ass bitches. But I wanted to bring this up because I was watching it tonight, kind of breaking news, and I think we already knew about this, but now it's official. Um, First of all, the shooting of Renee Good. We now know how she died. If you look at the car, there was one bullet that went through the front window, and clearly the guy didn't get run over. There were
Yeah.
four bullets shot. One shot her in the arm, one shot her in the breast, one was kind of just grazed her, and the kill shot was in the temple from the side of the car. So there's no way that this guy was in danger. Um, But what was fucked up about this is immediately after this shooting, they said, we're not going to investigate the shooter, but they opened an investigation on the dead woman.
Of course.
Try to find the dirt so they can justify what they did after the fact. But it got so bad that some FBI agent says, "Fuck you, I quit. I'm resigning." That's how atrocious this was. So now this is being spread out all over the news, and it should be. Um, they're trying to find dirt on a dead woman just to save face. That's fucking appalling.
Well, I remember them reporting on like when she died, they automatically, without any verification, was talking about her being a lesbian. And it's like, why the fuck does that matter? I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I mean, you're American. You're an American and you're not the typical story we hear about. She was white. I mean,
Yeah.
sadly, I've seen, it's funny on one hand the Republicans, tell you, well, they should have just complied. But they don't want to fucking comply with the law that tells them they got to release the fucking Epstein files.
Well,
And I was
exactly.
and I was talking to somebody at work the other day, and I was talking about that old gentleman that got pulled out there. And of course, I went there, and I shouldn't have gone there because this guy, I know this guy's MAGA. Well, he was probably breaking the law. I was like, how do you know that? How did they know that?
You
And
mean the Hmong guy that was pulled out of his house in the cold? Is that
yeah,
what you're talking about?
the older gentleman that was pulled out that was actually a
Yeah.
naturalized citizen, I guess, and I guess he was the grandfather of the 5-year-old that they used as bait or something like that. I don't know. There's so many.
No, no, it's two different situations.
Okay.
That older Hmong guy was because the kid was Hispanic, and we can talk about that because that is appalling.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a big story right now. But that Hmong man, he was here legally. They
Yeah.
just decided to pick him out because he was brown or Asian or whatever the fuck. They go in the door, they drag him out there. He had
In his
he's in his underwear and he's in flip flops or whatever, and it's 14 below.
Yeah.
Somebody threw a blanket on top of him, and they took him out to the car. They kept him for a couple hours, and then they sent him back because he didn't do anything wrong. How
No.
is that legal? They're saying, okay, now we're going to have a policy where we can go in the doors of the houses without a warrant. Well, that's well and good. You can make every fucking policy you want, but that's contrary to the Constitution. If you're attempting to follow the Constitution, you cannot do that, regardless of what policy bullshit you make.
I honestly think though that at least down here, I think they're trying to set a different precedent on that because we all know how Republicans like to start lawsuits. Well, there was a gentleman here, his house gotten broke into and he killed the intruder. Well, they're charging him with murder.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I don't, you're standing your ground and everything, but who's to say that they're not trying to set a precedent that, they had this, I mean, it's Texas, so, Greg Abbott, calling his buddy Trump getting this stuff started. I mean, I don't know. I just never heard of that before. And I've just always heard about, we have guns and what I heard all the fucking time when Obama and Biden were president is how all the ammunition was disappearing.
yeah.
Well, you don't hear about the ammunition disappearing anymore, but I bet you a lot of it's being bought. Just saying.
Oh, no, no shit. I mean, I saw one guy who seemed like a pretty passive guy, typical millennial, that's kind of kind of a soft guy and not guy who would buy a gun. He said, I would never buy a gun, but I went out and bought an AR-15 today. And I don't blame the guy. You got people coming with guns and jumping on people who are citizens, and it doesn't matter if you're white or brown or whatever. Um, there comes a point where you have to stand your ground and protect yourself.
But this is what we were always told about the guns, 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 is that we got to have, in case our government becomes, they want to take the guns. And it was never the Democrats taking the guns. It was never Obama. It was never Biden.
Yeah,
But what they're doing now, a lot of people seem fine with it. I mean, a lot of
yeah,
these, and they're bootlickers is what they are. They're fine with Trump doing this because that's their guy.
right.
And what I try to tell people too is that, who I heard talking about taking guns away wasn't Biden, wasn't Obama, wasn't Bush, it was Trump.
Right.
Trump was in
Absolutely.
that meeting talking about, and I think it was in his first cabinet meeting. Like, hey, let's take the guns away. So, but they don't believe that. And so they don't believe that, who was a general that said that he said that, soldiers were suckers or whatever. Well,
Suckers
he
and
fucking
losers.
came
Yeah.
out and I mean, he got fucking Rod Stewart all pissed off. He's got a
Yeah.
lot of people pissed off because he cut down, was it the British troops? There's so much shit that goes on, Mike, that it's like, fuck, what now? And I just saw, I think I sent you that message about Rod Stewart getting up there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, I mean, all our allies, they respect us all, but he's sitting there talking about troops. And who are all these people that support him? They're veterans. You've had a general tell you what he does.
Yeah.
He thinks that people that, didn't get deferments like he did because of bone spurs are suckers and losers. He said it about John fucking McCain.
Yeah. A genuine hero.
Yeah.
One of the things that people are talking about the most, everybody says, how low can ICE and Donald Trump go? And every day they seem to go lower. And we had this story recently, and they've tried to convolute the story and try to lie about the story. But they detained a 5-year-old child, little boy by the name of Liam Ramos, from Minnesota here, grabbed him up to use as bait to get his father out of the house. Now, his father and his son were standing there. They said he ran away. He didn't run away. He ran up to the door to tell his wife, do not open the door, because he could tell what was going on there. They
Yeah.
didn't want her taken out of there. Um, so they scooped up the dad and they scooped up the kid and they put him on a plane and sent him to Dilley, Texas, to some detention camp there. Um, and people say, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we talked to the mother and she didn't want him," which is not true. There was not only family, the mother that said they would take care of him. People from his school came, said they would take care of him, and they didn't listen to shit. They put them both on a plane. They sent them to a detention center that has a horrible record, um, horrible conditions there. This little 5-year-old kid, and that kind of triggered me because I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. And like I told my wife, I said, somebody did that to my granddaughter. I'd sacrifice what years I have left and go full John Wick. I don't own a gun, but I would get a hold of some. And, that sounds crazy, but if we can't protect our own children and kids and grandkids, I don't know what the hell you can do. So that seemed pretty low, and they were trying to play it off once again, trying to discount it after the fact to make themselves look good. And you thought, okay, that's the lowest you can go. Well, yesterday we find out that they they grabbed up and sent to a detention center. I believe a mother and a 2-year-old kid. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? Why are you grabbing little kids? What is it with Republicans and little kids? You got the most horrific, most heinous child predator, child abuser in the history of this country, and these Republicans that think they're holier than thou are trying to cover it up, trying not to expose it because they're afraid their guy's going to be exposed, and he will. So they're raping kids, and then they don't stop there. They're kidnapping kids and putting them in horrible conditions. This is why when I talk to religious people or Republicans, I say, you can talk about policy, you can talk about taxes. Explain to me how you can justify kidnapping children, abusing children, and they don't know what to say. They don't respond. That's when they run away from the comments.
Okay, let me ask you, Mike, these people that were taken from Minnesota, were they Somalians?
No,
I thought the whole reason he was sending those up there, ICE was up there, was the Somalian problem, which is all the fraud, which evidently was orchestrated by a white woman.
it was
You
all
know,
orchestrated by a white woman, and I believe she's
why
in jail now.
why are they going up there and why are they going after non-Somalian people if that's what they were there for?
Well,
It
and
just,
why would ICE go after fraud? I mean, that's out
yeah,
of their purview. They deal with federal crimes. Fraud
But
was a state crime here.
a lot of the fucking the Trump administration, they've learned from Trump. And Kristen Ohm's one of the best, Trump impersonators is because she lies off her ass too. Like she lied about that guy that got arrested in his underwear, saying, "Well, there were two sexual predators there in the house." I go, Trump was visiting? I didn't know that. I mean,
That's absolute
they
bullshit. They
just
just
throw
make
shit
shit
out
up.
there because their base is just so hungry for a win, and Trump is so hungry for a win, they don't care. I
No,
mean,
they don't
Trump
care.
talks
They're
out of his
drunk with
ass.
power.
Trump talks out of his ass, and people don't listen to him. I mean, they know that they know that they know that Grandpa's, all his cuckoos aren't home in the nest. Some of them have flown off. He's lost a lot of his marbles, but
Well, they're
he's that hold of power what they do. And when you talk about that, you talk about the religious people, how they're okay with, the stuff that's going on. I mean, somebody I was listening to somebody, they were talking about how Mike Johnson, they have these father-daughter, I guess, weddings that they sexualize these kids in making them, well, you're going to say, I'm marrying you. They have these father-daughter banquets down here in the South to where, they'll hold her virginity and then they'll give it off to the husband when she
oh,
gets married. What kind of fucking sick shit is that? But it's what they do.
yeah.
And growing up with that, you have so much guilt about sex that they just guilt you into it. And I guarantee you, and I've seen a lot of MAGA people talk about that when you ask them those questions about why are you letting this happen? What are they doing now? They're blaming the victims. Like that
Of
one girl that
course.
was on TikTok was like, well, it's 14, and I mean, they're literally bending over backwards, making the age of consent, you know, that of course it had to be them. It couldn't be the glorious, orange messiah. It had to be the kid.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're saying they're 14, 15 years old. You can't tell me they don't know what they're doing. No, they don't know what they're fucking doing. Were you ever 14 or 15? Jesus Christ, it's what is it with Republicans and underage sex or underage abuse? I mean, that's what when I talk to these religious folks and talk about being high and mighty and stuff, I go, "Yeah, but you're hiding pedophilia. You're you're supporting kidnapping children. Please explain that to me." And that's when they shut up. They know this shit is wrong, but they won't get off supporting the fucker that's committing these crimes. It's got to be a sickness or some, like I say, a cult. But you can't argue with these people because they could do the most heinous things. And let's be honest, what ICE is doing in Minnesota is the most unconstitutional actions we've seen in this country. I mean, we had the 60s, we had Kent State, and it wasn't as bad as what's going on now. It wasn't uh, as big an event as it is now. This is encompassing large areas where they're kicking in doors and taking citizens with no kind of process at all. They're just grabbing everybody and weeding out the ones that they were wrong on, which in most cases is all of them.
Well, this really shouldn't come as a surprise to us or the listeners. They did this to one of our own, Old Soul.
Yeah,
She was out there, and and I think what it is who do they go after? They go after the women. They go after the women with the child. They go after the old man in the in the shower in his underwear.
yeah.
I mean, they don't go after, I mean, I haven't seen them really go after somebody like you or me that put up a little fight. They go after the most vulnerable. This is why maybe the kid thing comes in play because, they can't, nobody will believe the kid or the kid's the easiest target. I mean, look what they do with transvestites. They act like transvestites, there's like one I mean, they act like transvestites, all live in bathrooms. I mean, they're
Yeah.
still running on that shit down here. I mean, it's a minuscule part of the population. And there, I mean, and other, this whole so-called limited government. that the Republicans just seem to love now. They love you. It's like down here, when they're telling you what you can do in your bedrooms. They don't want people who pay taxes to be celebrated with, LGBT sidewalks that are painted a different color because Greg Abbott's got a hard on for that. I mean,
Well,
it's
he
just
probably doesn't he because he's paralyzed from the waist down. But I get what you're saying.
but it's just they go after the most vulnerable people. They and what's sad is that the people that are not the smartest eat that shit up. It's red meat for their base.
Yeah.
And when they and I think though that I mean I think the more he does, the more Trump does, or President Miller, as I call him, does. I mean, now they're going to what, Maine,
Yeah.
because that lady said something again. That's what it is. He's going after his enemies.
Well,
And
I gotta tell you, I've been to Maine, and Maine is a very rural area, and Maine people don't fuck around either. And most of those Mainers, they carry guns. I don't know if they're going I mean, Portland and some of the bigger towns are more blue, but I don't know how well they're going to do up there. And then they talked about going to Philly. I'm really anxious for them to go to Philly. They don't give a fuck.
you know what I want to do too? If they go to Philly, I got a bunch of Dallas Cowboys gear I can send them, and they can wear that into Philly. Let's see how fucking long they last there. Because these are fuckers that boo Santa Claus, man. They cheered for fucking Michael Irvin when he nearly broke his fucking neck. Philly don't fuck around. I mean, and that,
No.
I can respect that. But I mean, yeah, but what they're doing, I think this, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I think that they're being so aggressive about stuff because I don't think I don't know if you've noticed it, but Trump's not exactly what you call healthy. And
No,
and
it
I
seems to be getting worse. I mean, when you watched him do that speech at Davos, it was embarrassing. But, he's talking like this and it's not like the old Trump. He's obviously lacking energy and his voice is kind of gravelly and he's leaning and holding himself up. They're propping this motherfucker up at this point. They're pumping him with something in order for him to open up his eyes.
Yeah, they had something where Jack Tapper or Jake Tapper or whatever was saying something, and he was just like so appalled about his look. I go, finally, motherfucker, you see that?
Yeah,
My God, Biden would have a fucking booger hanging from his nose, and they act like he's fucking senile.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's just, it's the thing about it is I don't know. I see him up there, and he's like he looked like he's like on there, and I don't know if he was like filling his diaper or what, but he was concentrating hardcore. I don't know if he didn't hold himself up like that, if he would have not fall down. I mean, he's that bad. And did you see him when he walked off the plane where nobody was there to greet him?
yeah, I
And
did.
he was like, I mean, it was like if he was got a, if he got pulled over getting a DWI test, they may take him in for fucking breathalyzer. He wasn't walking what
Yeah,
you call a straight line.
no, no. And he has trouble with that. I am surprised every time I see him speak in front of a crowd that he can open his mouth and continue to talk for a period of time and continue standing. I give whoever's propping him up, I give him credit because they're doing a good job because this guy is in physical and mental trouble. I mean, he said some stupid shit again, and he says it full chested like it's real. Yeah, I said this in the last podcast when I was talking to Ed. He stood up there and was explaining to the people of Davos, Switzerland, that we did everything to win World War II, and you guys did nothing. If it wasn't for us, you'd all be speaking German. And he said that in a town that all speaks German. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
What an imbecile.
and the thing about Trump is that we're talking about him. Of course, he's probably got his handlers saying, "Well, just we'll get you, we'll get you to bed, because motherfucker sundown's like a motherfucker. He does like 50 to 100, true socials a night. That
Yeah.
is sundown because he's definitely paranoid.
Well, and
But
I think he thinks he's changing the narrative. He thinks he's doing something when he does that. Little does he know Is he simply just embarrassing himself?
Yeah, but what they're doing now is like, sure enough, well, just, it's like what you and Eric were talking about, like, well, maybe just, run on Biden's economy and, you'll probably look better than you did in your first term. But no, Trump knows it all. So you know what he's doing now? He's gonna start doing rallies again.
Oh, good, good.
Gonna start, I mean, it's funny because I guess he feels that, it's funny, like when Biden was, president, the Democrats want nothing to do with him. Well, you're toxic and stuff like that. So now what they're doing, the Republicans are going to get their ass kicked, and there's more talk about the Senate now. That's how bad it's getting for these guys.
Yeah,
And
and I've said that all
Kevin,
along. The Senate has a chance
Kevin,
to be
well,
flipped.
the so-called political heads are coming to your way of thinking, Mike, because they're saying the same thing. That they may not get it, but it may be enough. It may be just enough to, if they ever impeach him or whatever. But
Yeah.
he's supposedly going to do more speeches and rallies, and he's going to campaign for people. Well, I say let him do it. That's the
Oh,
best
yeah.
thing Democrats can do is just play Trump speeches because he's not on the ballot, and all the gains he made back in 2024 are gone. The
Yeah.
Hispanics, he's lost the Joe Rogans, he's lost the independents, and that's pretty much, how it happened. But I read an article the other day, and I think both of us agree with this. Trump didn't beat Kamala. The fucking couch did because we stayed home and didn't go and vote. And I say we, I
Right.
say Democrats and independents. That's what got Trump elected is people quit giving a fuck. But
Well,
but
Donald Trump didn't get many more votes in 2024 than he did in 2020.
yep, but Biden did.
Kamala got considerably less than Biden did. So it
Yeah.
was a matter of people in the Democratic Party not coming out and doing the fucking job. And if you're suffering now because of it, well, place the blame on yourself.
Well, I think a lot of people are, they were I think that's why Biden won so big before against Trump because people have I know I do have really bad attention spans.
Yeah.
And but when you're out there working your ass off, you're, a lot of them barely making ends meet. You don't really fucking pay attention. But when you come out there and they can, and Biden had the audacity to say, the economy is getting better, and the media just took that and ran, and I've always said that about, and it was better compared to it is now, and I think people see that, but because you're seeing a lot of people say that, well, fuck, I thought I was worse off before, but it's like you see now you see Trump, kind of, doing the thing that the media accused Biden of doing. Because Biden
Right.
was out there talking about the economy getting better, and it was fucking getting better. And now you hear Trump, pretty much, they're saying they're trying to compare it to Biden, but Biden had proof that the economy was getting better. We had all that growth under him and everything. We ain't got that shit in a year with Trump. But Trump is doubling down and saying, no, you're not what you're seeing. This is right. But when you try to go pay your mortgage, you ain't got no Trump dollars in your wallet that the bank's going to take.
Right.
So
Right.
when it comes, like you say, I always love this nut cutting time. When you got to pay that fucking mortgage, and maybe this is why he's going to sue Chase. J.P. Morgan don't take Trump books anymore.
No, no, no. I think a lot of people, even the people with the money side of things, with what he was doing down in Greenland, and then he backed off that. He tacoed out of that. I think the wealthy people are now starting to get nervous about the prospects of what he's doing and how it's going to affect the economy and how it's ultimately going to affect rich people. That's when everybody starts to get nervous. Um, Donald Trump is pissing off Jamie Dimon, the head of, was it Chase or U.S. Bank or whatever, who was a supporter of Donald Trump. Now Donald Trump's going to sue him for doing whatever. This is done, everything Donald Trump does from ICE to what he does with internationally, it's all the same strategy. It's about bullying. And anytime somebody pushes him back, he backs up. Good example, the Greenland thing. He went to Europe. They said, listen, motherfucker, we're going to shut down your military installments. We're going to sell your treasury bonds, and then we're going to do an economic bazooka where we'll just cut you off completely. And what does he do? He backs down. Now, I think he'll still come back and try to pull some shit with Greenland now that he's not in front of these people. He's really tough when he's got some distance between him and whoever his opponent is. Um, but that's what it's going to take. You know, one of the problems with Biden claimed the economy was better, and the economy was better. We came out of COVID, everything was shitty. Biden created 15 million jobs for all intents and purposes. The economy was dramatically better. Where they fell down and what they forgot was that there were still people in the middle class that weren't making more money. Things were still expensive. Their life wasn't getting better. Wealthy people were getting better. Businesses were getting better. Jobs were better, but the people weren't getting better. That should be a red flag to the Democratic Party. It's not enough to say the stock market's going up and we got we got more jobs. We need what the working class has a better life. And the Democrats weren't offering that up to that point. They were promising it with Kamala, but they weren't offering it. And that's where they fell down. And hopefully they have enough sense to figure that the fuck out and do that this time.
Well, with Greenland, a lot of that stuff, Maggie Haberman even pointed that out, that a lot of that shit that he's claiming victory for, we already had with them. And
Well, yeah,
they talk about mineral rights and everything. They were willing to work with us on that.
they'll sell them to us, but Donald Trump wants to steal them.
Yeah, but he wants to go out there and act all Putinish and does all this stuff, and because his base will believe it. His Because I mean, I'm telling you, Mike, maybe you're not around it as much as I am, but other motherfuckers believe anything that guy says.
Oh,
And
I
it's
know.
just, and these people aren't what, if you saw them, you wouldn't think they're MAGA. But they believe because they have their what this I hear this all the time. Well, I don't watch CNN. Well, motherfucker, I don't watch CNN either. And I tell
Yeah,
you
nobody
fucking
does.
what, you call out MS Now or whatever fucking call it, I guarantee goddamn to you, you watch Fox and OAN more than I even fucking look at MSNBC or whatever it's called anymore.
Right,
Because
right.
there's like two or three people on MSNBC that are worth listening to, and that's like Lawrence, that's Jen, and that's Nicole, and
Yeah,
occasionally Rachel. And there ain't too many more I listen to on that. But I know when I hear this shit, when they say it, I know exactly what they're talking about, is because I read and don't watch Fox News, but I see what Jesse Waters says. I see what Hannity says. And that's the point that they do back to me. And when they tell me they don't do that, I know they do that because I used to do that. I would
yeah,
wake up, watch Fox News. I would listen to Glenn Beck. I would listen to Rush Limbaugh, and I would stay in that bubble, not getting out, and as they say, touching grass. And that's what Fox News does. But when they're held on trial, they're kind of like wrestling. Wrestling kind of wants to have that thing to where we're sports entertainment when it tries to get regulated as a sport. So when they
right.
want to regulate Fox News as news, no, we're just entertainment. And they've gotten away with that so far.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
they always talk about, well, they have the most viewers. Well, yeah, you have the most viewers because when they give, like, and they had those lab rats and they give them that little bit of drug, they keep going back for more and more. And that's what Fox does. In my case, they used to put the hot chicks on there. Of course, that was Kimberly Goldfold or whatever her name's 5 plastic surgeries ago on there.
Yeah,
And when you do that, and when you're in that bubble and you want to hear that stuff, of course you're going to come back for more. And I'm telling you, the younger generation, they don't really do that anymore. They get their news, sadly, from people like Rogan.
yeah,
I guess Midas Touch, but I think I'd rather have somebody watch Rogan than I would Fox News because Rogan's like a broke clock. At least twice a day, it's right. So I mean, he's starting to see that shit now. He came out the other day and said, hey, he's doing this shit with ICE to hide the Epstein files. And I don't know, and I know people don't give him his due, but that's fucking huge. That is a huge crack in that party for them to say that. I think it got so much that even the White House actually responded to him and had to say something because they know they're losing that. Because you can have all those old farts like us watching Fox News, they're going to be dying out. The people who listen to Rogan, they're going to be the ones that are voting, and
yeah.
that's another bad sign for Trump. And I can't wait. for the
Well,
popcorn ready.
when you're talking about when you're talking about Fox News, I'm looking here. The primetime average is 2.7 million viewers. Total average day is 1.6. WWE also huge numbers. Now, actually, for Fox News getting 2.7 in prime time, that's not a lot compared to what
Not
it
much
used to be in the
seven.
world of television.
Yeah,
You got like the final show of MASH or any hit television show in the 70s and 80s. They were getting 40, 20, 30, 40 million people watching it. So to get
yeah,
2.7 million, I mean, fuck. I'm not trying to compare myself to Fox News, but if I go on TikTok and I see how many views I had over the month, it's a million to million two,
oh
just
wow.
on TikTok for me. So obviously that's a lot less than Fox News, and you would expect that to be the case. But 2.7 million shouldn't have as much impact on this country as it does. But I think a lot of people do get information from Fox News by way of the clips on the internet, and they see this little clickbait. And if they're dumb enough, they believe anything they hear because it's on the internet. People are easily swayed in this country. They hear something that interests them or they think is salacious, and they go, "I want that to be real, so I'm going to talk about it as if it's real." You see TikTok creators do that all the time. Some story comes out and they go, "Oh my God, that's crazy. That's going to get clicks. I'm going to go on and talk about it right away," without ever really thinking about whether it's true or not. And I think the people are lazy in this country. They don't care if it's real or not. They just want to know if it sounds cool or is in line with their own fucking mentality.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is the latest episode with what's going on with Melissa Gilbert and her husband, where they already had that guy. I mean, a lot of the people who I follow on threads, a lot of them left leaning, were calling her out. Oh,
Yeah,
girl, and stuff. And she stood by the guy. Well, now it's coming out that the kids volunteer that information saying he never touched them.
right,
There's more, I mean, there's more evidence against, the guy, in Washington, and probably a lot of guys in Washington than this guy. But that
right.
same crowd wants to call him that for stuff that was even people were saying it was debunked because the parents were pissed off that he didn't use them in a movie, so they were starting this stuff. And people reported on that. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, say what you want to about TMZ, but they're pretty good about vetting in a lot of their shit.
Yeah, they
And
are.
they are because I mean, the guy that runs it is a lawyer, so he knows what's going
Right.
on. And he was talking about that. I mean, and they were calling her out, women, saying, "Well, it's she knows this and stuff." And the guy said he was innocent. I don't know if he's innocent or not, but the children were saying he was. So, and they had people hearing that shit, saying, they said that, they're very vindictive and they were going to do this, because of the money. That happens all the time in Hollywood. And I venture to say there's a probably, I mean, they had that down here, the so-called satanic panic, where they had these kids were coerced into lying about people saying, and in some like three or four women went to prison for that. Well, the
Yeah,
kids grew up and, realized what they did and they testified that their parents did that. So I mean, when you're a kid and you have an adult that you love and respect tells you to do something, a lot of times you do it. But
right.
lucky for him, they had it saying that where they said he didn't do it before. So I mean, I don't know how that works out. I love Melissa Gilbert. I watched her growing up. I went to Lower Ingalls Wilder Elementary when I lived in Missouri, and I hope everything's okay. But it's like I can have my own feelings, but just because, like you said, somebody comes on there and tries to shame her for standing by somebody that she believes in, I mean, let's let it kind of play out. And that's what we were talking about when we were talking about that stuff with that limo driver and that soldier. Evidently, that
Yeah.
stuff's been out for a couple years. It just saying recently they've been saying that it's been out for a couple years. So maybe it's on the media to vet that stuff and not us.
Well, it is on the media to vet this stuff. It's one thing to report it, and you don't see it on mainstream media. That's what always troubled me about it. I would never say that Sasha Riley uh, or the limo driver, it isn't true. but I can't say it is true because I've seen nothing to show me that it's true. And people will get mad at me because they want it to be true. They want it to be that thing to take down Donald Trump. And so do I. But it doesn't do us any good if we jump on the bandwagon of something that isn't true and then get embarrassed later. It just makes a better case for Donald Trump. See, everybody's coming at me with crazy shit. Everything that anybody says about me is crazy. If you're going to shoot the king, you better fucking kill him. And that's the attitude you've got to take.
Yeah.
We need that one kill shot with Donald Trump. And I mean that uh, metaphorically. I don't mean that specifically. Because to be perfectly honest with you, I hear people out here going, oh, I wish somebody with a gun would get him or he'd take a drive through Dealey Plaza. I don't really want that to happen at all. I mean, I'd like Donald Trump dead. There's no question about that. I'd rather have it natural causes because if something like that happens, then he's going to become a martyr. I want this guy's life and career to end. Some people have said that. Some people have suggested, are we better off with Donald Trump winning in 2024 than him losing? And people say, what the fuck are you talking about?
Gotcha.
But the reason people are saying that is because um, if Donald Trump had lost, we'd spend the next 4 years listening to MAGA and Trump and all this other shit. With Donald Trump in power right now, this is the opportunity for all it to all come crashing down around him, and we may finally be done with MAGA. I mean, fuck us for having to go through what we're having to go through to get that done, but there may be some truth to that.
I don't want, like you said, I want him to face punishment for first time in his life or be accountable for
Yeah.
what he did. I hope he lives long enough to where he can be, you know, what we're getting to the point to where, people always say your bucket list, what will you never do again? And I said I'll never vote for another Republican because anybody that goes out there and calls themselves a Republican, I can't respect when you have one of my representatives from Texas blame the Capitol Police for the riot that
Oh.
happened on January 6th.
Well,
And
the
you
thing is,
listen to
they
this
know
guy,
better.
well, they don't care because they know,
Right.
especially down here, they know their base is stupid enough to believe that because there's people down here or in MAGA in general that believe January 6th was Antifa. I mean, I've had people tell me that to my face. And, they believe that Nancy Pelosi was in charge, even though Trump was still president, I believe.
He was. He was the
Um,
one in charge of the National Guard.
and the thing about it is that, you say that, once Trump is gone, that we'll be done with MAGA. We're never going to be done with, we may be done with MAGA in name only, but we'll always have that 30% of the population. They've always said that 30% or so of the population, they're just crazy, that they
Yeah.
just believe everything. But what we messed up and what Biden biggest mistake was trusting somebody like Merrick Garland because Biden's a good, decent man and he felt Merrick Garland got screwed. Well, Merrick Garland ended up screwing all of us because if you would have had somebody like Jack Smith heading the DOJ back then, because you always hear Merrick Garland, well, I don't want to be political. What the fuck is Pam Bondi doing now? I mean, all
Yeah.
that work, even Mueller, yeah, he had a lot of stuff going on, but he still kind of he soft touched it. Oh, well,
Yeah, he did.
he soft touched it. I mean, if that would have been me or you inspiring, a riot, we'd be rightfully in prison. And you
Yeah.
have these Republicans up there, and they want to hold, Bill and Hillary. Bill Clinton, I get holding him in contempt, but having Hillary's a joke. They
Yeah.
just threw her fucking name in because they know their base hates her. But I read something, and I don't know, maybe Eric talked about this, I don't know, but they said that since they are getting, subpoenaed with this stuff, there's got to be discovery. So how
Right.
are they being charged with something that hasn't been released? So, and Clinton's a lawyer. I mean, he's a disbarred fucking lawyer, but he's a lawyer.
Well,
And
so
I
is
guess she was
Hillary's
too.
probably a better lawyer than
Oh
Bill.
yeah, yeah. Hillary is probably the one person. All the shit we're going through. If anybody can sit back more than anybody and say, "I told you, motherfuckers," because a lot of the things she said, In that debate, everything she said, you may hate her, you may think she killed Vince Foster, but that chick was right. And I'm not going to call her a bitch because I respect her too much. And you're talking to somebody that, didn't really think much of her at the time. But when I voted for her, and I'll say this, when I voted for her, I didn't vote for her because it was, I mean, yeah, it was a vote against Trump, but I voted her because she was the most qualified person. And
Yeah, no
sometimes we
question.
need adults, that's not really popular anymore to have an adult run they want the cool, substitute teacher that comes in and, lets you watch videos all day. They don't want this teacher up there teaching you something. And that's what America fucking needs. They need an
Yeah.
adult because all this shit going on right now, Democrats need to run to the left on stuff, but it's going to take a lot of fucking time, not only to clean up our mess, but to fucking mend the fences with our fucking allies.
That's going to be a lot of work, and I don't know how long it's going to take to do it. When you talk about them getting filing contempt of Congress charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton, I don't really give a fuck. I don't really care about them. They're old news, and they can take care of themselves. But the ironic thing is, you want to subpoena Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton about the Epstein files, but you haven't released the Epstein files. And secondly, if you're going to subpoena somebody, why not the Attorney General? The Attorney General's never appeared in front of that oversight committee, ever, since she took office. And she's currently in violation of the fucking law. If anybody should be subpoenaed, it should be her. And she's kind of losing it a little bit. I don't know if you heard the story when the protesters went into the church, and everybody was upset that the protesters went into the church and they exposed their pastor of being part of ICE. And everybody, how dare you go into a church? And I told these people, these religious people that said this to me, I said, okay, you're upset about them going into a church, but you have no problem with them going into a citizen's home, dragging them out, zip tying them, and taking them into a detention center, and then releasing them later because they were wrong. It just makes no sense at all. They're violating the Constitution. Pam Bondi's getting a pass, but when those people went into the church, Don Lemon, and I wasn't always a Don Lemon fan, but I'm getting to be more of a fan of his because he got fired from CNN. He went out on his own, and now he's got enough of an audience where he's probably making more
Oh yeah.
than he was when he worked at CNN. And I love that for him because fuck the media. But they tried to prosecute him. Uh, Pam Bondi tried to go after Don Lemon for all he was doing is reporting a news story. And they took it to a judge, and the judge said, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And Pam Bondi lost her shit because she thinks she can demand anything. She's not a very sharp woman. She's certainly not a good lawyer, horrible attorney general. And she's been taking a pounding lately.
She lost her shit because she probably got a fucking phone call or a text from, Donald,
Yeah, no
because
doubt.
he wants to do that. He's the one to fucking try to sue the New York Times for publishing a bad poll on him. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole Comer thing, who's the guy that Comey? I mean, they couldn't get a grand jury on him, and they couldn't get one on Letitia James.
They tried 3 times with Letitia James.
Yeah, and now they're going after journalists,
Yeah.
press, media. If you haven't been fucking paying attention now, pay attention now because you're next. And even I follow, Don Lemon lost me too, but I'm following the guy now. And, I follow one on YouTube and stuff like that. And it could have been different like that because he was working for, CNN.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's an independent now, and it's his ass on the door, not CNN. So he's held accountable. So he actually gives a fuck. So he said they're going to arrest him, and I believe him. They'll do something to arrest him to do it because I mean, that's what Putin does, isn't it? Doesn't he arrest? Well, he actually
Yeah.
does a little bit more. They eat something or fall out of a window. I mean, it's like, or their plane crashes, like that guy who's that general that was going after Russia and he turned back around. I knew that would happen. And see, Trump doesn't look up to somebody like a Nancy Pelosi or Bill Clinton. He looks up to freaking Putin. I mean, he writes love letters to North Korea because those guys are in office till they die.
Right.
That's what he wants to be. And if the media thinks, I mean, I hope they do arrest Don Lemon to make an example because
Well,
I think
well, and I
that
tell you what, you know who else hopes they arrest Don Lemon?
Don Lemon,
Don Lemon, because
yeah,
what Donald Trump just did, he's doing well. He's got 1 million followers on YouTube,
yeah,
and if I gauge basically what I make on my little group of people, Don Lemon's making $30 to $45,000 a month on fucking YouTube. He's
yeah.
doing okay. He's doing okay.
And YouTube hasn't become what Twitter has become or what TikTok's becoming. Did you get that agreement today on the I mean, how has that changed TikTok changed for you? I was curious about that. I haven't seen
I don't even. They took over ownership apparently. I haven't noticed anything different when they changed the rules. I thought I'd get kicked off sure as hell, and I haven't been touched. I haven't got any kind of ban warnings. I haven't got any violations. It's actually better now than it was before they changed the rules. And now with this change, who knows what's going to happen? Um,
well, there was
frankly,
a they pushed something out like some kind of agreement you had to agree to, and I
yeah.
watched TikToks about them. They were saying that they pretty much own everything and they can make it go away. I was like, well, any platform can do that. I mean, there's not really a change on that. I have this guy that I follow on YouTube, and he's got a podcast called The Thinking Atheist, and he's like an ex-evangelical, and I've mentioned him before, but he had somebody report him, and YouTube deleted his whole all his content. He has like years of content, and like they just deleted it. So if you think TikTok's the only one that'll do that because Oracle owns them now, I mean, you're talking to the tech bros, you're talking to the oligarchs with that. I mean, yeah, YouTube's a big voice right now, and it seems, I mean, it seems to when they were banning people like, Alex Jones, they did that, but now it seems like they don't do that anymore, which is a good thing for, left-wing creators that want to get their stories out there because I see a lot of them are leaving TikTok to go over to YouTube. So YouTube may be
Oh
the new
yeah.
TikTok.
It may be, and there may be some other app that comes out. I tell you what's going to happen though. Right now, when we have all these Republicans going after left-leaning people, when this all explodes and all gets exposed, and Donald Trump goes down in flames, all these places that maybe seem a little rough on the left side, they're going to be supporting the left side people because that's where the money will be.
Yeah.
That's where the success for them will be. So you wait it out a little bit, and even TikTok. TikTok is owned by the oligarchs, but they paid a lot of money for this fucking thing. It better make money, and if all the left-leaning people move away from TikTok, their little venture there isn't worth a shit. And money's more important to them than politics at this point.
Well, I think that the Republicans, if anything, they're slow on technology because when they were talking about the TikTok ban, people were freaking out, and but there's a little thing called a VPN that you can point to another country, and that'll put you
Yeah.
it'll do everything like they did that down here in Texas where they, all these, crooked politicians are telling us that we can't view porn as adults. So what does everybody say? We have VPN, point it to
Yeah.
California. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of especially the younger generation that are real tech savvy, they'll find a way around this. And how TikTok kind of rose up, like you said, there'll be something else. I mean, people are always going to get their voices out. I mean, this isn't Iran to where, we're too big of a country to let that happen. And there's too many, people with, guns and stuff for that to happen. And, if anything, Trump will push enough to where he'll get the deepest of MAGA to say that because they don't care until it affects them. Because you see the voters say that. Well, I didn't think that would affect me.
Right.
Yeah, then you wake up. They come in, they say, well, you should be obeying the law. They busted you into your fucking house at 2 o'clock in the fucking morning because, say somebody doxed you. because all these MAGA people they dox Democrats. You don't think Democrats dox fucking Republicans, and you don't think that they'll start doing that too? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that doxing is right, but I'm seeing a fight in these Democrats, not so much the ones that are running the House and Senate on our side, Hakeem and strongly worded Chuck Schumer. I'm seeing the younger ones doing it. I'm seeing the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's. And speaking of Jasmine Crockett, I'll send you a link, but there's their first debate is this Tallarico and Crockett are debating on Saturday night. I thought you might want to know that.
Oh, really?
It'll all be over TikTok and everything, but I don't know who was talking. Who was your guest? I think you were reading on Substack the other day about Jasmine Crockett. Tallarico, the polls down here are wide open because you have Tallarico was polling ahead of Jasmine Crockett last week. Well, now, and you don't trust polls, but they're a pretty good indicator, especially when they're, on one party. Now she's back in the lead. I mean, of course, they're different polls, different people, so take it what it won't. But I will say this to my anybody from Texas listening to this. We need to do what the Republicans have done to the Democrats for all this time, and I know they've done it because Rush Limbaugh would talk about that too. We got a Texas primary coming up. I think most of us Democrats will believe that we'll vote for either Tallarico or Crockett. Yeah, we
Right.
have our preferences, but whoever wins that primary we'll vote for. So why don't Democrats, I mean, go and vote in the Republican primaries like they do us? Let's
Absolutely.
let's get Ken Paxton on the ballot because we know we can beat him. Cornyn's a long shot because I think the billionaires will be more inclined to support him. They will Paxton. So, why don't you vote do like the Republicans do all the time, because you can only vote in one down here. Make sure Paxton gets on the bill because if anything, expose that guy. He's down here in Texas and he's won some races. Let's let the nation see, when they're running that national campaign, you know, Texas has had a lot of bad exports, and I think Ken Paxton probably the worst. I mean, he may be worse than Ted Cruz, although he may leave I mean, he may stay, but Ken Paxton's worse because he stays here year round. So that's one reason to vote for him against him.
Yeah, Cornyn, reason Cornyn is concerned to either Tillerico or Crockett is because he's the incumbent, and he's kind of generic in the sense he's not crazy Trump-la-fuck, but he's not decent either. He's not a great guy. He does support Donald Trump, um, and
You
Paxton is
know,
more of a Trump-la-fuck. Paxton is more of a Trump-la-fuck, and we know when they get in the races, they have a much harder time winning.
Trump, the thing about Paxton, and I'll tell you this, Paxton is more Trump than Trump is. All that shit
Yeah,
Trump says, Trump don't fucking believe it. He don't care. Paxton does. Paxton's the one that's went after the women with their abortions, who's
yeah,
done all that
true.
stuff. Paxton's the one that's done that. And you think, and you said something about the next two elections are very important. They are. Because if you elect Paxton, that's going to be the new face of your Republican Party in the Senate. And
Yeah,
you thought, and he'll eat JD Vance alive. He'll probably still worship, they'll probably worship Trump, whatever. But if you have
right.
somebody like Ken Paxton in the Senate, that'll be a new breed of Republican. You want to talk about, I don't think the nation realizes, I've lived it down here first hill about that, about how Paxton is. You think JD Vance is scary? Like I said, Trump doesn't believe half the shit coming out of his mouth. Paxton does.
I
That's
see
why
Paxton. I see Paxton as a louder, more powerful Tommy Tuberville. Kind of that same mentality. Tommy Tuberville would probably come off moderate compared to Paxton.
I think Paxton's smarter than Tuberville, but that ain't saying a whole lot.
Oh well, Tuberville's dumb as fuck. Yeah, there's no question about that. Paxton, yeah, see that's a good that make you make a good point. I've often said about Donald Trump, the saving grace here is that while he is evil and he's about cruelty, he is dumb as fuck, and we see him failing every time he tries something. Paxton is just as cruel, just as bad, but he's a little sharper mentally. He may be twisted, he may be delusional, but He's younger and he's sharper than Donald Trump. And for my money, that makes him far more dangerous.
Yeah, when you see somebody like JD Vance, even Ted Cruz, even Marco Rubio, the shit they say, they don't believe it. A
No.
lot of the shit they're doing, they don't believe it. And Cornyn, same thing. They're the old school Republican that eventually works with the other side. But what Paxton is more of that Stephen Miller type
Yeah.
person. It's about the cruelty. It's about winning. Trump is happy just to get paid or just to somebody, hey man, like, his favorite mayor in New York, give him a compliment and become texting buddies with him. You think Paxton would become texting buddies with a Democrat? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, that's the thing. And I think what saves this country is that the country, even I think normal Republicans, I don't like Paxton. And I say normal, I just they pretty much, the ones that, for that. But I think the best thing we can do is have Paxton win that because I think Cornyn has a better chance of winning because I think billionaires will back him more. But if Paxton gets out there and Bill Maher has always said that, another guy I'm down on right now, but always expose them to sunshine. Don't hide them. Put them out there on the show. And I get that. But let's
Yeah.
put Paxton on the national ballot and let the nation see because it won't be just Texas voting on him. Well, technically it'll be Texas voting on him to send to Washington, but America will see this guy when he's on there with Tallarico or Crockett. I don't know how either one of them can't beat him, and I think soundly too.
Yeah. The the difference between Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, I think both are great candidates. I think both have big futures in politics for the Democrats. I think they're some of the best we have available. But in this day and age, in this time with Donald Trump and with a Ken Paxton, you need a street fighter. You need
Mhm.
somebody out there that'll fucking whip the shit out of somebody. And Tallarico's a more calmer, easygoing guy. He's smart as hell. He'll tear them apart verbally. But what I like about Jasmine Crockett is what I saw when she said she was going to run for the Senate. Everybody around Texas acted like it was a joke. Oh, she doesn't have a chance. She couldn't do this. She couldn't do that. That's not disdain as much as it is fear. That's what they do when they're afraid of somebody. And the problem for them with Jasmine Crockett is over and above Republican and Democrat. Democrats, especially right now, they want fighters. They want somebody who's going to fucking mix it up and push back. We've been bullied too long. We need a bully killer, and that is more Jasmine Crockett than James Tellerico at this point.
I'll disagree with you just a little bit. I would agree with you before, but I'm pretty comfortable with Tallarico running too, because I've been paying more attention to him, and it's going to be interesting to see that debate between those two if it
It's
gets.
going to be.
I mean, it'll be. He's very, like you said, very smooth. He's very collected. But honestly, there's a lot of people, especially down here, that'll look at her. Well, she's just a loud woman.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but 2024 proved that all over again. So I'll vote for either one of them. I mean, I'd vote for like ham sandwiches, they say,
Yeah.
over the other two. But I mean, as Democrats and people that support the Democratic Party, we need to be more selective of who we send to represent us because Trump was bitching about the pardon he gave Henry Cuellar, saying that, he betrayed him or whatever thing. Well, Cuellar and six other Democrats just, gave more funding to ICE.
Right.
So, I mean, when I go and vote, I'm not going to even, I mean, I know it may be petty, it may not count, but, I'm not, I won't vote for the guy. And we got to
Well,
get like that. We got to get people that represent us, not people that represent the party, so to speak, or even Trump.
I presume Henry Cuellar is going to get primaried, right? Is there going to be a
I
primary against him?
haven't heard anything yet.
Well, Henry Cuellar, you wouldn't vote for him because of, signing on for the DHS
Well,
extra money.
before that
He's
too.
also he also indicted for fraud
Yeah,
in a big way. I mean, this
I'd
guy's
be a
a
hypocrite,
criminal.
and I'd be a hypocrite. Oh, I can't vote for Trump because he's that way, but I'm going to vote for Henry Cuellar. I'd be a hypocrite. If I want to do that, I just go back to voting Republican.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, it'll be interesting. Tellerico, I will say this about Tellerico. He's smart as fuck and he's articulate as hell. What do you think? But he's got a religious side to him too. Uh, I agree with his religious, the way he talks about religion. I don't agree with most people that espouse religion, but he does. How do you think that will impact things down in Texas? I mean, I know there's a
I
certain
think it'll
amount of
help.
religious aspect.
I
You
think
think
it'll
so?
help. I think it'll help. He's religious, but there's a movement down here that when they put the Ten Commandments and they're doing all this stuff, there a lot of Christians don't want that because they don't want there's believe it or not, unlike what a lot of my atheist friends say, Christians aren't all not all Christians are trying to force you to become a lot of them you run into are forcing you
Yeah.
to you know because it was so funny. I always grew up saying that you take the mark of the beast. Well, it's like I don't hear it. I don't see Satanists trying to give that to me. I see Christians. I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think it's a game changer. The Republicans tried to get him on something to evidently he has a lot of like pornographic models that follow him. I guess on OnlyFans. It's an American enterprise. I support its capitalism, right? Well, evidently he follows donors back. So the Republicans were trying to go after him. Say,
Yeah.
well, you're supporting, this and that, but you're a constituent. It's hell. At least he's not banging her, and at the golf course like some of us did. So I don't.
Yeah.
I think it'll help him. I think, like I said, I think Crockett's biggest thing. It's not like what she says, pretty much. If she can get the African American minority vote out there for it, great. But Tellerico kind of has a problem like what Pete Buttigieg has. A lot of people don't know him,
Right.
especially in the minority, vote. They didn't really, like he had like what did Buttigieg had like no African Americans didn't really know who he was.
Right.
I think that'll change, especially if he runs somebody against Paxton. Hell, if he runs somebody against Cornyn. But I think either one of them can beat him. But I wouldn't say that Tallarico's not a fighter because I've seen more of him. Hell, if you get Joe Rogan to run, you've already won the election, right? But Joe Rogan fell in love with him, and I think that, and it's sad. I still disagree with you and Eric about. I do believe that I do believe Newsom will be the one running for president in 2028 because
Could be.
he's the only one out there I see fighting. Yeah, I know we're way out, but Trump did that. He started early, and I think I think a lot of people may not like him, but a lot of people see the fight. And I think that's the Democrats' biggest thing is that they're so unpopular is because they don't see a fight. And I see Gavin out there fighting. And I
Yeah.
see people out there defending him. They're trying to go after Gavin and his record. And you see people going, you're going after Gavin and his record? What about fucking Trump's record? See, they
Yeah. No
totally
shit.
want to hold the other side to a higher standard than they do their own. Like, Trump says all this stuff. Well, what did he say this? And we're like, well, Trump said 20 times worse. But oh, that's our guy. Yeah. So it's like, Gavin may be the rock star we do. I think he's going to do it because I don't think he would still be doing this shit. I think he'd gone back to California if he wasn't going to run. I think, I think he's going to run. I think he's going to be the nominee because I think he's the strongest one out there. But
I
out, who knows?
I just want to say this about Tellerico. Tellerico is on Instagram more than he's on TikTok, I think. And if they're going to talk to him about, you know, who follows him, he's got 1.8 million followers.
Hmm.
There is no way he knows
Yeah.
who all those followers are. I mean, I have just under 500,000 followers. I don't know who the fuck follows me. And
Well,
you know how many people I follow on TikTok? I follow probably 9,000 people because I feel like I owe it to them. Um, so I don't know what every one of those 9,000 people do. Fuck. How
that
do I
just tells,
know?
but that tells you how desperate they are. They're trying to, they're trying, they sit here and they tell us that Trump's is freaking Christ-loving Christian, but a guy who goes to church, like Obama, like Biden, like Tallarico, yeah, he has people that support him who don't necessarily what you call, work 9 to 5, but they're the problem. So
Yeah.
it's just a desperation. It's just the hypocrisy of Republicans that, they want us to believe all this shit, but they give Trump a pass. I mean, my God, can you imagine if Joe Biden got out there and held the Bible upside down? Not only
Yeah.
Jake Tapper, but my God, everybody lose. I mean, it's like Trump did that too. And I saw a thing. I saw a thing one time, and it was like him holding the Bible upside down. It's like, and like Trump's looking at it, it's like, gee, how much money can I make out of this? I mean, it's the grift. I mean, Hunter. I mean, we heard about Hunter Biden's laptop and about the $10,000 he got. You see that he's made like over $1 billion as president. I mean, where's all the outrage on that? I mean, it's like they always hold our guys and gals to a higher standard to do their own, and that's something that Democrats need to get over. Well, I can't vote for Kamala because of this and her laugh, and you better fucking get over it because the fucking Republicans can hold their fucking nose and vote for somebody, then you can fucking vote for somebody that may not necessarily agree with your fucking plan, but get the conversation. Even Kamala said that. We may not agree, but get me in there. We'll start the fucking conversation.
Yeah. Well, because we're living through Donald Trump, the regime, when we come to 2026, even 2028 at this point, people are experiencing the problems they are. We look at the polls. Economically, he has only 18% of the people that support him in the economy. His overall polling is 35%. It keeps getting lower. It was 42, and then it was 38, and now it's 35. How low does
Careful,
it have
Mike.
to
I'm
go
going to sue
before
you.
Republicans say fuck it? There's got to come a point when the Republicans say, "Oh, this guy's not working to benefit us anymore."
You would think so, but I mean, we're getting pretty close to the primary season, and I I was reading something to say that you may actually we all think that the Republicans when they get closer to the election they may, turn on Trump to make it look good. But I think a lot of them, when we get past, when they get, when they feel emboldened, when that primary is not over their head anymore, that'll probably be when it happens. Because he threatened to, who was those two? There were like two Republicans that voted against one of his bills, and he wants to primary them, and one of them was Mitch McConnell. I'm like, dude's retiring, dude. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
like,
retiring for fuck's
yeah, good
sake.
luck with that. But that threat of that primary, because that works, because that worked down here with Pac with Greg Abbott when they went after they didn't vote for the school vouchers. Abbott primaried one of them, and Paxton primaried the ones that went after him. So the MAGA voter will go out there and vote if told to. So once those primaries are over, and those Republicans aren't afraid of it anymore, that's probably when they're gonna do it, and that's gonna be this year because before the election, so they may feel it's their last, they won't get primaried, but they can run for re-election, and actually, well, Trump's been bad for the economy. Well, I stood up to him. Maybe that's what happens because I don't think they'll do it on their own. It's got to benefit them somehow. They're not going to do it because it's the right thing to do. They've proven that. They're going to do it because they're just like Trump. It's going to benefit them somehow.
I think in order for them to walk away from Donald Trump, a couple of things got to happen. He's going to keel over and choke on a Big Mac, or, as I've said before, the Epstein files. I said after they voted on the Epstein files, I said the Epstein files won't be released as long as Donald Trump is in power. And I
Correct.
still think that's the case, the majority of it. But that's not to suggest there won't be some leaks.
Oh yeah.
I think people in the DOJ, the rank and file, I think the people the rank and file in the FBI are getting frustrated. We're seeing people quitting right now because of the shit they're doing. And these are people who are career employees and are setting aside their careers because they just can't take it anymore. Something's going to get leaked out. I heard somebody on TikTok claim they had an inside connection with one of the members of the House committee. Maybe it was even Rashkin. And they said something about the Epstein files is coming out soon. Um, and I don't know if that's true or not. It was on TikTok, so I don't know whether to believe it or not. But one little thing has to come out. Like I've said, one video, one picture, one document that implicates Donald Trump unquestionably, and it's fucking all over. There's nothing they can do at that point. They may try to spin it, but the fact of the matter is, if there's a picture, it's going to be hard pressed for them to do something about it. And that's when things start falling apart. People start walking away from Donald Trump. I mean, kidnapping these little kids and killing this white woman on the streets of South Minneapolis, that's taken its toll on the Republican Party and Donald Trump too. I mean, because he's way underwater on his immigration polling too. So he's not doing well in anything. He's down on everything. So it's not just Democrats that hate this guy now. It's moderates, it's independents. He's got, put it this way, independents are crucial in a presidential election because it's pretty close with Democrats. Whichever way the independents go, usually that's the party that wins. Right now, in terms of approval rating with independents, he's at 29% last time I heard it. That's quite a bit a ways down from where he was when he won the election.
And it always goes back to that thing. I guess when Bush was running against Clinton, it's the economy, stupid.
Right.
Because I mean, it's going to come to that. He can only like distract for so long. Yeah, we went to Venezuela. Yeah, we did all this stuff. We did Greenland. That's the only way Trump knows how to do stuff is just, the big show,
Yeah.
the big show with that. And I think that the majority of the people that aren't Trumpers don't like seeing fellow Americans getting killed because they know that could be them, that could be their daughter, that could be their child, that could be their wife.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to the economy, stupid. It all goes back to, well, it's affecting me now. I can't send
Yeah.
my kid to the college because I got laid off. When it starts affecting people personally, that's when and I think this ICE stuff, I think people are seeing this stuff now because this is all the shit that the Republicans warned us the Democrats would do all these years. How they would, lock people up for, worshiping Jesus. I mean, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've praised Jesus and I don't believe. I've never been attacked for my faith or non-faith. But now you're seeing people get attacked for their accents.
Yeah.
You had John Cornyn out there who fucking said, well, I don't understand why somebody doesn't have their papers. I mean, it's like Cornyn from 20 years ago would have fucking been outraged they're doing this shit. But
Yeah.
they know that Trump is their last hope. And he hasn't even, I mean, you have all these people down here running for office. None of them have gotten Trump's endorsement, but they all act like that because they're all in these fucking commercials. I mean, it's like I'm sitting there watching my buddy Mike run for, Minnesota senator. 30 years ago, I saw him campaigning with Gary Hart. I was like, what the fuck's he campaigning with that guy now?
Yeah.
And you're up there and if you took yourself and you time traveled from 20 years ago up till now, and you see these people and Trump's history, you're like, God, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near that guy. But there's people that still embrace it. And that's the ones that do it. But those people are always going to vote for it. But when you start losing the independence, because we're a 50-50 nation, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
But
Unfortunately.
we are those people that, people they're the worst about voting against their own interest. because you have people that, live in trailer parks that fly Trump flags. You think he would let you in Mar-a-Lago? You'd be,
Right.
and it's like, and women, don't support other women, when, she's dying and she can't get a fucking abortion. The baby's dead anyway, but they want to carry it to term, and that's what it
Yeah.
is. There's no
Yeah.
fucking after birth abortions. I heard that my whole life. I've never seen that. It's just fucking made up shit. But you got people that are so, to them, they don't go out and touch grass. But you have a lot of people that think for themselves. And a lot of those people are seeing these people dying and stuff like that. Trump's going to have his voters no matter what. But when
Yeah.
you lose independence, that's not a good thing. And the Republicans, if anything, need to, they're get every time that boat, that little iceberg's getting closer and closer. And I honestly don't think, I mean, I like to think that the Republicans do the right thing, but I don't see anything that they would do it. But he can't keep gaslighting us with all these problems going on. He's got to address the economy. And like I've said before, he's a hell of a candidate, pointing out what everybody else does. I mean, he's still
Right.
fucking blaming Biden for shit. Biden hadn't been around. Fucking Biden's getting cancer treatment now. Biden had nothing
Yeah.
to do with it. This is him.
It's yeah, well, yeah, and but you will hear Trumplefuck say,
Oh, yeah.
"Yeah, it's Biden," and I just laugh at these people. Biden hasn't been president for a year. Kamala Harris hasn't been in the vice presidency in a year. When do you take responsibility? And I always say to these people, if you want to blame this on Biden, how come Donald Trump hasn't fixed it yet? Is Donald Trump so fucking weak that he can't fix what Biden is alleged to have done? So you're telling me it's Biden's fault, and you're telling me Donald Trump has done nothing. That's
Well, I let them know that because I tell everybody that. I go, I heard day one. I heard day one. Ukraine, Russian war, day one. I heard inflation, day one. I hear all that shit and I give that back to them. And this would be, and wow, everything's so high. Everything's so high. So guess who fucking says that all the time now? God damn, everything's so fucking high. Everything's fucking high. We need to bring back that guy. The rent's too fucking high. Who was that guy that would say that? I
yeah,
guess
yeah. He was a
was it.
mayor
He
or
was like
something.
they were trying to do that against Obama or something like that. But one thing I want to talk about. I know we're getting ready to wrap things up, but there is something that the Republicans and like Cancun Cruz. I guess he's here this week. I guess he didn't leave his dog behind like last time 2021, and they want to start impeaching judges now
Yeah,
because they go against Trump. And of course, I think that I think the Republican nominee is going to be Ted Cruz or one of them because he's really going after that vote because he's all for Greenland now. Isn't he a constitutional lawyer? I mean, we can't fucking do that. He knows that.
no,
But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to impeach these judges. Well, that ought to fucking chill the fuck out of the Supreme Court
yeah,
because if they do it, guess who else can do it? And if
exactly.
judges, they will start doing that too. So try it. Let's see what happens.
This has always been my argument to these people, and I'm just now hearing people say it too. Republicans are pulling all this shit, presidential immunity, going and bombing anybody without the help of Congress. You have to understand, once the Republicans set that precedent and they get away with it, when the Democrats in control, they can do the same thing. They can blow out judges. They can blow out every Republican judge there is because they've already set the precedents. And that's the amazing thing to me. They're so short-sighted. Do they think they're going to have power forever? That's not going to happen. It's never happened in the history of this country. Certainly not for Republicans. And then I look at people like Cornyn and Ted Cruz and all these people that are hanging with Donald Trump till the very end. What happens when it blows up? What happens when he gets exposed? Because he will ultimately be exposed with the Epstein stuff. And these
He'll
people
do
are
it to
going to want to
himself.
try to get away from him so fast, and they aren't going to be able to do it because they hung on too long.
Yeah, he'll do it to himself because he's saying everything out loud now. I mean, he's totally. I mean, it's. I mean, he's admitting stuff now out in the open. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while he have a flub like the Second Amendment, repealing the Second Amendment with the guns. I mean, it's only going to get worse. I mean, this stuff we said about the soldiers. I mean, that would have been like I said, that would have been Biden. It'd be all over the news, and rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, you got Jake Tapper's opinion, thing now. It's like, Jake, wow, did you actually seeing it now? And I've actually seen a few people say this now that they wouldn't say this before, because I think a lot of his base are seeing it too, because there's like, well, I don't care who political. We need term limits. You're hearing a lot of the right say that we need term limits, and that it was all before Biden being too old. Now it's their guy. I mean, they're not
Well,
saying it
yeah.
loud, but they're they're getting around to it. So every little thing he does, Venezuela, we're not bombing boats anymore. I mean, what happened with that?
No.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Apparently the drug thing is all fixed. What are
yeah,
we doing in Venezuela?
did we ever get that check from Mexico about the wall? I don't hear about the wall anymore either.
But I mean, he goes and bombs Venezuela. He takes Maduro out. He's stealing oil. And now we haven't heard anything about Venezuela. What are you going to do to fix Venezuela, Donnie? I thought you were going to go and make things better there. You got the same regime in there. All you did is go in there, try to intimidate him. You steal Maduro so that somebody gives in to you. And then this dumb Machado woman with the Nobel Peace Prize just gives it to Donnie, thinking she's going to be put in place as president because now she's Donnie's buddy. She's in for a fucking rude awakening. She's not going to get shit from Donnie Trump.
We'll see. He quit bombing Venezuela, so now that's the ninth war he stopped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
This,
all goes back to the Fockers. I didn't know they made a ninth place ribbon, Greg. Like when he got that Nobel Peace Prize, and
yeah.
Republicans they had their hard-ons about participation trophies. What the
Well,
fuck do you think he's getting now? What do you think that was?
well. Here's the really dumb thing about the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize that was given out this year. The um, the decision comes like about a week or two after Donald Trump was inaugurated. So in order to be available to win the Nobel Peace Prize, he would have had to end those 8 wars in 2 weeks, which he didn't do. But he doesn't even understand that. He goes in and he's talking about Greenland and military and yeah, I used to care about peace, but because you didn't give me the Nobel Peace Prize, now I don't care. It's just what's best for the country. And it was so childish and so immature. I have to think even Republicans said, "Well, what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing here?"
Did you hear him saying that he could have played baseball?
Yeah,
But that I'll get his name eventually, but that physical therapist that talks about that, he says that a lot of they do that, they just make shit up to fill the gaps up in their mind. That they just,
yeah.
there's so many holes in his memory that he just makes shit up. It reminds me of that John Levitt's character. Yeah, I'm the king of France. Yeah, yeah. You know that on Saturday Night Live where he would say, "Yeah, yeah." It's like, I had one girl. No, I
That's
had
the
two
ticket.
girls. No, 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 I had three. John Levitt's the liar guy or whatever. That's who our president is now. He's like he'll hear himself talking. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I started 9 wars. Don't make that 10 wars. I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, and we just. I mean, we've said it before. It's like we're gonna have to wait this out because I mean, I hate to say it, but elections have consequences, and we're in the midst of it. And once
We're suffering the consequences. I can relate to Donald Trump just pulling shit out of his ass and lying. As I've said many times, my father was a narcissist, and when I was growing up, he would spout stories that weren't true, and I knew they weren't true about his athletic exploits, and he never was involved in athletics. But he claims did when I was young. As I got older, I found out it wasn't true. But to show you how people like Donald Trump or my father will keep spewing shit till the day they die. When my father died, my brother and I and my wife went up to do whatever we had to do to put everything together. and we're sitting around the table of three of his buddies from up there, elderly guys that were his buddies, and they absolutely loved the guy, which isn't surprising because he was a very charismatic guy. He was intelligent and he was articulate and he could tell a story. And we're sitting there, and as we're sitting there, they were confused because he had these medical bills and stuff like that, and they said, "Yeah, my father had told them he was in the Navy. Well, why don't you go to the Veterans Hospital? Why don't you do? Well, no, they don't do a good job and all this stuff. The guy was never in the Navy. In fact, I think that he was planning to go into the Navy because he didn't have anything else going. Then, when he wanted to get out of it, he ended up marrying my mom, and that got him out of it back in late 50s. There wasn't a war going on, but so he got out of it. But as I'm sitting there and they're talking about his years in the Navy that he's told them about, then he said something interesting. And it reminds me of what it reminded me of this when Donald Trump said he was a great baseball player. And I will tell you, people went back into the records. He hit about 185. He wasn't a great baseball player. He was a horrible baseball player. But these people, and I'm sitting next to my wife, and as soon as they say this, she elbows me like, just shut the fuck up. Um, and he had told them that he was a goalie for the Minnesota Gopher hockey team in 1960, 61, something like that, which is interesting because I was born in 1960. And he did go back to college a little bit after I was born for his job, but he never played sports of any kind. He wasn't a goalie. And I'm sitting there listening to this. I'm going, that motherfucker. And my wife knew I would open my mouth problems. She's going, just let him have it. And I thought about it after a while. I thought, well, it does me no good to out this guy to friends of his that thought he was a great guy. Dead, just let it go. But they will do that to the last moment, last breath. They will continue to lie, and that truly amazes me.
Yeah, I wasn't real close with my father either, but one thing he always taught me that I always remember this lesson: you tell yourself a lie long enough, you'll start believing it.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think a lot of that stuff is like when he does stuff on True Social. I mean, he's not doing this, he has stuff read to him because there was people on The Apprentice that he can't read, and he probably got away with bluffing all this time. But but he doesn't have any people that stand up to him anymore like he did in the first White House. Hell, he ran off them all the ones that do that. So he's got Stephen Miller up there, the only one that's the real constant, and that's what we're doing. But I mean, he's not going to be able to gaslight and do this much ever because, like I said, it's going to come down to the economy. And
Yeah.
when people are personally affected, it's going to take that for them or somebody they love to be personally affected. I mean, he was talking the other day about the girl in Minnesota whose dad, her dad, oh, he's big MAGA. I hope he still is. You really think that he can remain MAGA? And if he remains MAGA, then he ain't much of a father or a human being. That
Well, I've heard some stories about this guy, and he's upset that his daughter was
I would fucking hope so.
murdered by ICE. He was murdered by ICE, but remember, he's a MAGA guy, and she was a lesbian. And her dad and uh, and her uncle said, "Well, the poor girl wasn't walking on the right side of Jesus." So her dad and uncle are blaming her for being a lesbian or being a liberal or whatever the fuck, and they're standing with Donald Trump. What do you even do with that? You can't even argue with that. These fucking people. Fuck.
I would like to say I'm surprised, but the people that, taught me about Jesus still support him. A lot of them do. So it's not it's shocking as a human being, but as an ex-evangelical, it doesn't shock me because, wow. I mean, I'm shocked, but I shouldn't be. I guess. I
Yeah.
guess I guess I'm naive for doing that, but I yeah, I mean, it's like this is the same group that when I was a kid growing up there, and I was in the sixth grade, and I remember I was in history class when the space shuttle Challenger blew up, and I was just devastated because Krista McCullough was a teacher,
Right.
and I think a lot of us at that age were. It's like, oh wow, one of us is going up there because that's what we thought of teachers.
Yeah.
And I remember these couple girls were talking. Well, I hope they were Christian, and I was
Yeah.
just like, wow. And it's just like that's what I grew up around. And it's like, it just tells you right there that and when I say shit like talking snakes and donkeys, I'm not going after, the main stuff, but it's just those people are gullible. A lot of them are. And, it's like who's the guy that did the JD Barnum or There's a Sucker Born Every Minute? I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying
PT Barnum,
Barnum, yeah, but
circus guy.
wow, I know that, but that just takes me back. And, it's like, if I'm going to hell, I want to be there. I don't want to be with them up there. If it's away from those
Yeah.
kind of people, fine.
As far as I'm concerned, and I'll say this, and I'm sure there are plenty of people on Facebook that would hate me for it, but I will say this, and I stand by what I say. If you claim to be a Christian and you vote and support Donald Trump and you support the killing of an innocent woman on the streets because she's a lesbian or the kidnapping of children, you're a fake Christian. You're not really a Christian. You're not somebody who truly believes in what you say you believe in. You believe only what benefits you. And fuck you. As somebody who does consider himself a Christian, I am very offended by these motherfuckers. I don't belong to a church, and I wouldn't belong to a church. I have a number of reasons for it, but that doesn't mean you can't believe in God or whatever it is you want to call it. But if you tell me you're a believer and you follow the teachings of Jesus or whatever you say you do, and then you do the exact opposite, for my money, you're a fake fucking Christian and you're offensive to me.
I remember growing up with my dad, and we went to church, and he was divorced, of course, at the time, and got married again. And they wouldn't let him be a deacon in their church.
Yeah.
But these are probably the same people that think Trump's wonderful, and he's been divorced 3 times or two or three
Right.
times.
Right. Exactly.
It's just like everything else is there. Other people are held more accountable than him. So
Yeah.
that's the way
It's
they.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unfucking believable. Well, Jace, I'm going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it immensely. It's always good to hear from you from the fucked up state of Texas. And I'm talking to you from the fucked up state of Minnesota. Minnesota was fine before Donald Trump and ICE got here. There were no problems. It was quiet. It was calm. The crimes and the chaos were brought on by Donald Trump. And I think a lot of people in this state blame him and are frustrated and scared by it. And goddamn him for doing that.
It's funny. We always try to talk about how positive we are, and boy, we're a couple of Debbie Downers here at the end of this podcast. I mean, it's like,
Well,
who's got the most fucked up state? Well, I mean, hell, Mike, I think you may beat me this week. I mean, if we're doing rankings and shit, I think you do. But if you want to ever take a break, you could always join us on the other podcast we do coming up in a few
coming
days.
up soon, yeah. We're going to record that tomorrow, the next day, and nothing to do with, well, I won't say it's nothing to do with politics because last week we did get a little political, but we just talk about more interesting, fun things, and you do need to take a break now and again. And you're on TikTok. Tell them where they can find you on TikTok.
Gen X Jace, over 3,000 now. And they're not all
Nice.
scantily clad women with, one picture. They're actually real people. I'm getting a lot of people with the music, vinyl and stuff like that. Yeah, and there are people are liking the podcast. People listen to the podcast. A lot of people listen to you, and and they listen to there, and they tell me what they agree with and disagree with us. But if you ever have a topic and you want to hit me up on there, I mean, I'm always on there, me or Mike.
Yeah.
Mike's on. I might have a better chance to read it because I don't have, all the followers he does. But if you got a show topic, text Mike to his number you want us to talk about. We talked about the Scorpions last week and the Wind of Change song, so we're open to anything. And
Yeah, we're open to anything. The
open
text
as we are,
number
we
is
haven't even
nine.
decided what we're going to talk about tomorrow. That's how open we are.
Yeah. Um, if you want to text us some suggestions, the number is 952-522-1399. 952-522-1399. Got questions or comments about this show, or if you got comments or suggestions about the other show, take a break. By all means, we love to hear from you. For those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.